What's going on, everybody? Christian Ballard, Ballard Sports Media, day 3 of conference week. And we got a very special guest. We got Sean from the two Irish brothers. Good to have you on, buddy. And just kind of introduce yourself, talk about your channel and what you do, and what got you into college football and everything.
Well, first off, couple things that I want to say before I do that. I want to give a special shout out to my buddy Ben, who is one of my good friends and the co-host of the Two Irish Brothers. He was supposed to be here tonight with us, but unfortunately he got sick during the day. So I want to give a special shout out to him. He's here in spirit. And then I also want to give a special shout out to my dad and my stepmom who are watching tonight to lend their support for my YouTube ventures. So what's up, guys? How's it doing? Or how's it going? Excuse me. I hate when I misspeak. But well, anyway, as far as a little background and history goes on myself, I've been a Notre Dame fan my whole life. I pretty much grew up into a Notre Dame family, so I didn't really have much of a choice.
Yeah.
But regardless, I loved it from as soon as I knew what it was, and as soon as I started following football and other athletics. I loved Notre Dame. I loved the stigma that you hear everybody talk about. I was sucked in right away. But what also helped too is I have 8 family members who attended the university. My uncle Jim, and I'm not BSing. He was the team doctor for the Notre Dame football team for, I want to say about 86, 87 to 2018.
Wow.
By that time, yeah. By that time, he was done on the sidelines and in the later part of his career with the team. But he's over the years he's worked with a lot of big name guys, and the stories we've heard, man. So it's needless to say, it's a very special part of my family, and what more do I really need to say? So, but as far as the YouTube aspect of things, just to give a basic rundown, myself, I started doing YouTube in 2009 under, first it was Big Sean Power 10, then it became ND Sean 45. So I went solo for roughly, 11 years or so. And then my buddy Ben, he approached me back in 2020, not too long before COVID hit, and he asked what I thought about the two of us joining forces. And I thought, you know what? I mean, it's great to go solo, don't get me wrong, but it's even better when you have somebody to talk with. And I thought, you know what? Let's do this. Ben has been a good friend of mine for a long time now. As a matter of fact, interesting story. The first time him and I met in person was at his wedding in 2017.
Okay.
He had asked me to be a groomsman in his wedding, and that was the first time ever that we met in person. So pretty special friendship. And so anyway, going back to how we formed, we formed a new channel together. We thought of a name. Ben thought of 4 different names, and we settled on the Two Irish Brothers, and we've been going strong for the last 4 years, talking Notre Dame football and other things and whatnot on the channel. It's been a lot of fun.
That's amazing, man. And I have checked out some of your content. I think you guys do a fantastic job. That being said, we will talk a bit about Notre Dame tonight, but obviously sticking to the ACC, looking at it, I know on the phone you said, I can only provide so much, and which is completely fine. Like, let's just kind of roll with it. But I think one of the questions that a lot of people have kind of wondered, and maybe it's obvious, I don't know, but when you look at the Clemson Tigers and you look at Dabo Swinney, is it me? Have they fallen, or is the ACC on the rise in college football right now? Do you think there's a Clemson issue, or is it a issue of, well, these teams are just on the rise with Florida State? You got Miami, you got all this. You could, if you want to get in depth to it, Dabo brought in no transfers. So, in my opinion, I think there's a bit of a Clemson issue.
Honestly, I've thought about this myself. And it's so puzzling because there's so many teams in this conference that have the potential to be really good, and sometimes it surprises me that they don't have more top notch teams than what they do. But I actually think it's a mixture of both. I mean, obviously
Right.
we saw Clemson take a step back last year, which it happens to everybody from time to time. And you're an Alabama fan, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've seen. I'm sure there's been times in Alabama's history, which maybe doesn't seem like recent history, where they've stepped back before. Um, but no, I think it's a mixture of both. You had Clemson take a step back last year, and then you had some teams that finally put it all together and had a nice season. Like Florida State obviously had a really nice season. Louisville kind of came out of nowhere, had a nice season, and then it seemed like after that, the rest of the teams, you kind of say almost year in and year out that, oh, this is the year that those teams finally break through, but they end up staying middle of the road. And the big question also is, when is Miami going to come back?
Right.
So I just think it's a mixture of both situations there. Clemson take a Clemson problem, but other teams are on the rise too.
Absolutely. And do want to get some Notre Dame talk in here too. My next question has to do with them. What have you seen as a fan and just a guy that, obviously on your channel, you cover Notre Dame, you talk with Notre Dame, and you're a big time fan. How have you seen Notre Dame develop under Marcus Freeman in recent years?
Well, when he first took over, and I don't really count this, but his first game was the 2021 or the 2022 Fiesta Bowl. I mean, I want to count that, but you really can't because that really wasn't his chance to put his team together the way he wanted it. It was still a Brian Kelly team. But under his first 2 years, as a full-time head coach, so far as fans, we haven't seen the records that we want to see. We haven't seen the bowl games that we want to see. But despite that, I like what Marcus Freeman has done his first 2 years as a Notre Dame head coach, because, and I could start from a bunch of different places here, but I think the best place I can start is this: Brian Kelly, and I'm never going to say anything different here. He is an asshole. Pardon my French. Everybody knows that. I mean, we've seen how he acts sometimes, how he conducts himself, but the guy is a good coach. And I know if there's any Notre Dame fans watching, they're gonna think, Sean, why are you even saying anything good about him? Well, if it wasn't for Brian Kelly, we wouldn't have become relevant again. He got us back to that. Now, did we get over that hump and win major bowl games or national championships? No, but to be there after so long, like since the Lou Holtz era, I mean, that's a great start. But anyway, I digress. So Brian Kelly and Marcus Freeman are two different kinds of coaches. Brian Kelly is more like a disciplinarian, and Marcus Freeman tends to be more of a player's coach. But with that said, I don't want to stereotype too much on that, because Marcus Freeman does know how to institute discipline and focus and all that stuff. But
right.
He has been so far the perfect balance of a coach that Notre Dame needs. I mean, he's you can tell how the players gravitate towards him. They love him as their head coach. He is the kind of coach that, hey, he'll hold you accountable, but he's a coach that you can come to when you need to talk to him about something. He's there to help you. He goes above and beyond for his players, and we've seen that, maybe not necessarily with the records. I mean, first year was pretty good for a first-year head coach. 9-4, victory in the Gator Bowl. Then things kind of fell off last year, but we still got a nice victory in the Sun Bowl.
Right.
It's pretty good for a guy who's been a head coach for only 2 years. But the real improvement that I've seen is the talent that he's bringing in. I mean, the job that he's done in recruiting has been phenomenal. And we're seeing on the field, we're seeing how good these guys can be. And now we just need that one piece that puts it all together. So I'm very happy with the progress that he's made in his first two years as head coach. You know, he's learning just like a lot of the younger players are, and you know, there's this mystique with Notre Dame football in a head coach's third year because a lot of them have won national championships in their third year. You know, Lou Holtz did it, Dan Devine did it, Rockne, Parsegian. Now, granted, it's been a long time since we won the national championship, but Marcus Freeman is the guy that can keep that trend going. So, yeah, overall, I think he's done very well as a head coach, and there's nowhere but up for him to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, what you look at Notre Dame, obviously the big poke at them is, well, they're not in a conference. Well, you can also say that about other teams like Army or whoever. And I know there's some independents out there that are kind of switching it up a little bit, joining some conferences out there. You know, let's just cut to the chase. Is the ACC, which we're talking about a little bit tonight, like realistically, what conference is the best fit for them if they go anywhere? And, you know, because they mostly play the ACC schools, and, you know, they do have Big Ten home and homes every year, or almost every year, something like that. I know they've had Ohio State recently and all that, but I think they got Michigan every, like, couple years or so. So, realistically, like, what's your landing spot?
Well, that's that's a tough question because, like you just said, we've had the agreement with the ACC to play 5 teams a year on the schedule for, I think that's been going on since like 2014, I think. I forget exactly when, but that's been the main agreement.
Right.
All our other teams, except for football and hockey, which hockey we all know is set up differently anyway, but all our Olympic sports, for the most part, play in the ACC. But even long before that, for the longest time, for decades, even though we weren't in the conference, Notre Dame essentially played a Big Ten schedule because Michigan was on the schedule every year. Michigan State, Purdue, Indiana, Northwestern a number of times. So we would play those teams for the longest times. Michigan State, and Purdue being the 3 biggest from the Big Ten that we actually had rivalry games with. So it really could work out either way. Like if we ever did join a conference, and just for the record, the fan base is kind of split on that, whether we should or shouldn't in general. But myself personally, and I've said this many times on our channel, it really makes no difference to me if we're independent or in a conference. I just want to see us win on the field. But I think it would be, honestly, I think if we did join a conference, it would probably be the ACC.
Right.
And it depends if the ACC is still around in a few years or not. But that would make the most sense right now because, with the Notre Dame's bad blood with the Big Ten for, going back almost a century. A lot of people don't realize this, but I'll tell the story again, even if you've heard it a million times. But Notre Dame, back in I think the 1920s, they were ready to join the Big Ten Conference. I mean, it wasn't called the Big Ten back then; it was called West something, I think, but it was essentially the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah.
Michigan's president, Fielding Yost, he denied Notre Dame access to the conference because he was anti-Catholic. He was bigoted toward Catholics. Why, I don't know, but it was because of him that Notre Dame was denied access. And so we're like, okay, you don't want to play us, you don't want us in your conference, and fine, we'll do our own thing, and that's what we've been doing since then. And so yeah, so based on that, I think it would be the ACC if we do end up joining one.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we got Sean on here, Notre Dame fan. Like I said, we'll make this a pretty quick show tonight, but it's funny, talking with you this week, you're like, yeah, I'm mostly on Notre Dame, but, I'll try to help out with the ACC if I can, but I do have to ask, um, you look at realignment, what brands do you think are out there that maybe the ACC should try to target versus what they're going after? Because haven't they targeted like Cal and SMU and all these other, smaller schools, which is, I guess, fine, but at the same time, like, is that kind of what they need to go after?
It's funny. It's still ironic to me that it's called the Atlantic Coast Conference, but yet you're getting teams from the West Coast. I mean, doesn't that defy some kind of geographical logic?
Well, I mean, yeah, and it's like the Big Ten. The Big Ten's doing the same exact thing. I mean, this whole location and coastal, it's so irrelevant. It's not even funny in
Oh, that's
college
true.
football right now.
That's
Yeah,
true. Well, I'll tell you this. I remember when the first big round of realignment happened. I was very sure that the ACC was going to snag West Virginia because
yeah,
that school just seems like the biggest sense geographically and brand wise. But clearly, the Big 12 made West Virginia an offer they couldn't refuse. So West Virginia looked like one that they could have gone after. Um, Man, I don't know. I don't know. I
I
mean,
don't know either. That's why I'm asking questions. But like, it's it's so weird. There's some teams out there on the ACC, like in their territory that they should go after, but like there's so many teams out there at the same time that I just, like you mentioned West Virginia, like I just don't know if they would accept an offer.
well, I mean, I know one conference that you could look at for realignment into the ACC could be the American. I mean,
Yeah,
like there's always those teams that could be intriguing in a couple different conferences, and like the Memphis Tigers, for example, they
Memphis, yeah,
they've always been intriguing because there's always been talk of like could they end up in the Big 12? Could they go to the ACC? I mean, honestly, I don't know if the Big 10 would really be a fit for the Tigers, but that, like we said, at this point, geography doesn't really matter. And Memphis, they're one of those teams that has very good basketball, pretty consistent football, can kind of be off
right.
sometimes. But I'm trying to think of all the other teams who were in that conference. I mean, obviously, the Big 12 came through and snagged a lot of them. Houston, Cincinnati. Let me check these conferences because it seems like they're changing every 5 minutes of who's in there and who's not.
I think it's I'm going to UAB next year, and I think they've been Conference USA if I'm not mistaken, but they've moved out to, or unless they're in Conference USA now, but like this year they're moving conferences, and I don't know. There's some teams out there, smaller schools that I can't think of any off the top of my head. I didn't think to write any down, but I know there's like SMU's and like um shoot
Well,
Tulane. I don't know.
yeah, SMU is already in the ACC now.
Right, right.
But I guess if you wanted to look specifically at the American, another intriguing one here is Temple.
Yeah,
Uh, I think Florida Atlantic could be another one that's pretty interesting. Um, but as far as the other conferences go, like let's talk about the Conference USA for example. I know that they had Conference USA. It's a miracle that they're even still alive because they got gutted badly. I mean, when Sam Houston State was one of the big ones you had to add to stay alive. I mean, that's saying something.
yeah.
But I guess from Conference USA, you could take a look at Florida International or maybe a Middle Tennessee, Jacksonville State. I don't know. It's really a tough call, to be honest with you. But I mean, like I said, I was sure at one point that West Virginia was going to join the conference. That didn't happen. Memphis, like I said, they're my runner-up, and just any of those other teams from the American that I mentioned.
Right.
What's the strongest ones that you can get?
It's a good question. You know, I mean, there's a lot of good candidates out there. At the same time, like you add these teams to these conferences, you also got to ask yourself, yeah, they're good where they are, and they're good here, there, whatever. Are they going to be good enough to handle the scheduling? Are they going to be good enough to handle the teams they're going to get themselves into?
Oh, very fair question. Very fair. You look at you can say that's pretty much what you say about, for example, when you have a Division One team that moves up to the or an FCS Division One team that moves up to the next level, like we were seeing a lot of teams doing right now.
Right.
It's pretty much equatable to that. In this case, like you mentioned, SMU, along with, now Cal and Stanford, they primarily played a Power Four schedule anyway. SMU, no, they've been playing a Group of Five schedule. And I will say this: SMU is very intriguing. They're one of those intriguing teams that, like, recently they've had a fair amount of success in playing in the Athletic Conference or the American Athletic Conference. I think that's a team that people should look out for. It may sound crazy, but there's just something. Sometimes you got to go with your gut, and my gut tells me that they could be a diamond in the rough. It might not happen right away, but I could see them making that jump in the ACC and making some noise. But you're absolutely right. It's when you
Sean. Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was gonna say that's a big adjustment that any team has to make is conforming to the type of schedule you're going to be playing. It's going to be a lot tougher.
Right.
That was
the last question I have, and last question I have for you, and then because like I said, I'm kind of I'm sitting in my car here, but I got to get going home soon. But we'll end it on this question here. Yeah.
In the car, yep.
Gotta ask you, everyone's one. Why is FSU leaving the ACC the solution? Yeah, I laugh at that question, but let's talk about it, man. Let's rip the band.
I agree. Florida State leaving the ACC is not a solution. If one of the biggest brands in college football for decades, and granted, yes, last year they put it all together. They won the ACC, went undefeated. Yeah, I know they're pissed off about being snubbed out of the playoffs. I get that, but you really think that letting one of the biggest brands in college football leave your conference is a solution? I mean, how much crack are you smoking? I mean,
yeah.
So stupid, man.
It's not the solution. I mean, I think the solution. Florida State, it's like this whole crybaby routine. Like, they don't pay, so they go pound the corner and everything like that, and that's kind of what they're doing. But at the same time, it's like, I don't blame them for being upset about getting snubbed from the playoffs. And I'm an Alabama guy. I know Alabama got that fourth spot. I even said on my channel, I'm like, dude, I know they got injuries. I know their quarterback's gone. I know this. I know everything about the whole Orange Bowl deal. Even after all that, like, they were one of the 4 best teams last year. They were.
Well, and honestly, Ben
and
I were
handling it. They're not handling it.
No, they're not. And I was going to say too, Ben and I had talked about this several times over the last few years. But instead of a 4-team playoff, I think they really should have started with 6. And I think, that would have been fair. And if that was the case, then Florida State would have definitely got in last year for sure. But, you got to live with how things are. It was 4 teams. They didn't make it. Was it controversial? Yes. But they have every right to be angry. But there comes a time where, you have to get over things. And believe me, as a Notre Dame fan, we've had a lot of bad moments that, I could dwell on forever. But the time comes when you have to get over it. I mean, we've had some bad losses. I mean, I remember, we lost to Marshall and Coach Freeman's first year. Just some, even before that, some very embarrassing losses. Not exactly having the best showings in the playoffs when we have made it. It's stuff that I'd soon rather forget, but it happened. You can't change it, and it all becomes about what do you do going forward with what you can control.
Right. Absolutely, because you can only control the end game stuff. And, as Nick Saban would put it, like I said, Alabama guy, so I had to bring him up, right? But he would always talk about external factors. And you can't let what's around you impact what you do. You just can't.
No.
So,
I mean, what it all boils down to is at the end of the day, you can only worry about yourselves and what you do. You can't worry about what other teams do, what the voters do, what anybody else does except yourself at the end of the day. But I think it would be a real shame for the Seminoles to leave. But of course, as sad as it is, college football is a business, and at the end of the day, they're going to do what they're going to do. But I hope they do stay. I hope that conference survives. I want it to survive.
I do too. I think even with the Pac-12, like everyone's hoping that they find their way again, because we talked the Pac-12 on Monday, and it's the Pac-2 now, and I'm sure there's not a soul out there that's a true college football fan that's happy.
I couldn't hear that last part.
No one's happy with this realignment stuff, especially with
Did I lose you? It's not something on my end, is it? I hope not. Can you hear me okay?
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean,
yes, sir.
But with the Pac-12, and hey, I see Joey Foster's here. What's up, man? Oh, thanks, dude. Love you too, and you're awesome as well, man. But yeah, that's a good question with the Pac-12. If they want that brand to survive, I mean, that's a good question. For me, the only solution to build themselves back up is to, and I don't even know if you can say, you can't replace all the teams that left, but you can only replenish, bring teams in. Your only choice to do that is to basically merge with the Mountain West. I mean, that seems like the most logical thing to do, but I don't know. There might be other ideas out there. Because the thing is, you have to, if you're going to keep this conference alive, you have to find some teams that do have some brand name to them, some oomph, if you will, that people recognize.
Right. That's pretty much all I got for you, man. I know it was a quick show and everything, but I think it went offered us some good insight on Notre Dame and the ACC.
Well, if you want, I can give you a little insight on the team itself.
Uh, is there
Yeah, you were kind of cutting up again there, Chief.
I'm here.
Okay. Oh, real quick.
Sorry about that.
No big deal. Real quick, I just got a text. My dad and stepmom are officially watching. So, hey guys, what's up? Um, no, I was just saying, if you wanted me to give you an insight on the Notre Dame football team itself, I can give you a few thoughts.
Um, yeah, want to. I mean, I do have to get going, but
Okay.
um,
Well, we can probably save it for another time then if you have to really get going. So I understand that. That's cool.
yeah,
Hey, that's
we'll
what a
have to
sequel for,
definitely
right?
keep it.
Yeah. I mean, that, like I said, that's what a sequel's for, right?
Right. Thank you, Sean.
Hey, thank you, Ballard. It was a pleasure to be on, and you know, you ever want to have us back? That'd be awesome.
Absolutely, man. We'll have to keep in touch. Appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, thank you. It was a pleasure to be on.
Yep. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you next time.
Later, guys.